What's going on, Ravens fans? Welcome back into the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. Our final at-home video of the week. We'll be back in studio later today, but we got a huge update on the Ravens' search for their next offensive coordinator late last night from Adam Schefter. So I got to keep you guys updated because Jesse Minter, he's working on rounding out this staff. That's what we do here. Daily updates, all 100% free on the Ravens Rundown. So make sure you guys subscribe if you have not yet. We're closing in on 45,000 subscribers. We just need 160 brand new subs on today's show. So help me get there if you have not yet. It's free to subscribe, and you also get daily content only on your Baltimore Ravens. So there were some pretty big things that happened yesterday in the National Football League, right? Joe Brady took the Bills job. We talked about that. Domino effect from that means that Brian Daboll's now the new offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. And that's the funny thing about the National Football League. A lot of times when one thing happens, that affects another, that affects another, that affects another. It's a massive, massive domino effect across the entire NFL. Well, I believe we're going to kind of start seeing something like that over the course of the next couple of hours or so because kind of out of nowhere yesterday, Sean Payton fired his offensive coordinator and he fired a ton of other people on that offensive staff for the Denver Broncos. So immediately when I saw that, I thought, okay, maybe he's doing that to promote Davis Webb to be their offensive coordinator. Because right now, Davis Webb just serves as their quarterback's coach and their pass game coordinator. And so we know Webb is interviewing for a lot of jobs. More on that in a second. And so my original thought was, okay, he doesn't want him to leave Denver. He's going to open up that offensive coordinator spot. He's going to promote him up to that and say, hey, look, let's just give this one more year. We love the way you work with Bo. Let's give it one more shot. Vance isn't going anywhere. I don't want you to go anywhere. Let's see if we can win a Super Bowl. And then next year, like with a year of being an offensive coordinator under your belt, you'll be an even hotter name in next year's coaching cycle. I can imagine that is Sean Payton's pitch to Davis Webb to stay in Denver. But he's got other options, right? We knew the Baltimore Ravens were one of his options, possibly as a head coach. He came in to interview for that a couple of days after John Harbaugh was let go. And he's going to be coming back to Baltimore very, very soon. Adam Schefter tweeted out late last night, just a shade before 10 p.m. Eastern time, after Broncos passing game coordinator and QB coach Davis Webb interviewed this week for the Raiders and Bills head coaching jobs. Obviously, the Bills job is filled as of right now. He received interview requests for the offensive coordinator jobs with the Eagles, Giants, and the Ravens. So there you go. Davis Webb getting his second interview with Baltimore. And while this is his first technical interview for the offensive coordinator position, he's already come in and interviewed for the head coaching spot. So I can imagine, look, the head coach interview is a little bit more intense than the interview to be an OC. Not saying that the interview to be an OC isn't intense. I'm just saying I feel like to be a head coach, the process is a little bit more rigorous. And so for those of you that say, okay, it's his first offensive coordinator interview, I disagree. I think this is his second. Okay, I think he has already kind of moved on to round two of his interviews to be the next Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. Because I think in the first place, if we're being 100% honest, I don't know if they ever saw him as a guy to be their next head coach, but they knew he was a young, bright offensive mind. They said, hey, look, we're going to get him in here. We'll interview him for the head coaching spot. But in reality, we think he could be a guy that could be the next offensive coordinator. I've got some thoughts on Davis Webb. I don't think that this would be the right move for Baltimore, okay? I'm going to say this straight up, flat out. I get it, right? He's a young, really talented coach. What he's done with Bo Nix has been incredibly impressive, and he's everybody's hot name right now, right? I would have thought, honestly, from a couple of days ago that as we sit here, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, that he would have already been announced as the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. That hasn't happened yet. Look, I get it. There's a lot of, hype around Davis Webb. I don't really buy into it right now. Guys, he's been a coach in the NFL for 3 seasons. He was playing in 2022. And now you're expecting him to be your offensive coordinator for a first-year head coach who's defensively minded and will be most likely calling the plays on defense. Do you hear what I'm saying? I don't think this is a good idea. Like, it would be one thing if you would have hired a guy like Clint Kubiak, right? If you hire Kubiak, you bring him in as your head coach. He also calls offensive plays. And then you hire a guy like Davis Webb to be your offensive coordinator who doesn't have as much responsibility in that role because you've got Kubiak. But you didn't do that. You hired Mentor. I don't think it was a bad hire at all, but he's defensive, right? He's going to be focused mainly on the defensive side of the football because that's his expertise. He's going to be calling plays. So you're going to need an offensive coordinator who's calling plays and pretty much running that entire side of the football field. And for a guy who was playing in 2022, I don't think that's very wise, okay? I'm not saying you need somebody that has play calling experience in the NFL. But what I am saying is you probably need somebody that has more than 3 years of coaching experience in the NFL. And this is specifically like a Baltimore issue. And it's not even really an issue. It's a great thing. I think this team can compete for Super Bowls in 2026. Like, ironically, let's act like we're John Harbaugh's Giants right now. If you've got a really young offense, a really young team, and Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors, Cam Scattaboo, you're exciting, right? You're looking forward to the future. Then maybe you can hire Davis Webb because you're not expected to compete for a Lombardi this year. But in Baltimore, you are. You've got Lamar Jackson. He's been in this league almost a decade. You've got Derrick Henry. He's been in this league more than a decade. Like, you've got veterans on the offensive side of the football. And I'm not saying you need a veteran offensive coordinator. I'm just saying you need one that wasn't in the league 3 seasons ago, 4 seasons ago. I just think that, look, you've got a chance to really do something special. And I don't want that to be wasted on taking a risk on a young, up-and-coming guy who, might not be ready. Something you should be ready for is our awesome friends over at Prize Picks. You should also be ready for the big game because it's almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Missing your fantasy team? My league's already over. But with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. This weekend, we absolutely crushed it over here in the Petersen household on Prize Picks. Me and Kennedy took advantage of that max discount they were giving us on Sam Darnold. All he had to do was throw more than half a passing yard. We paired that up with the more passing yards on Matthew Stafford, and we won big. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. The link to that promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. I made this analogy yesterday, and in case you missed yesterday, I'm going to make it again because I think it's a perfect analogy, okay? I think you got to look at the Baltimore Ravens in 2026 as the reverse of the Chicago Bears staff-wise in 2025, okay? Just look at it flipped. What Chicago did was they went out and they got Ben Johnson, okay? Really young, really impressive offensive mind. A guy that everybody knew was going to be a head coach in this league one day. What Baltimore does this year, they get Jesse Minter, a really young, a really impressive defensive mind. A guy that everybody knew was going to be a head coach in the league someday. What Ben Johnson then did was he hired an offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle, a younger guy who he knew he could take a chance on because, look, he's not going to have as much responsibility because Ben Johnson's calling the plays. I think what Jesse Minter does is he hires a young, maybe not even a young, but a defensive coordinator that has never called plays but has been with Jesse Minter and that he believes can, help him run the defense. But then you got to flip over to the defensive side of the ball for Ben Johnson. He hires Dennis Allen, a guy who's had experience in this league as a head coach, as a play caller, as a DC. Because Ben Johnson's saying, look, I've got a lot of things on my plate. I'm a first-year head coach. I'm also calling plays. I've got a lot to worry about. I've never done this before. So that's kind of why I believe, look, it might be best suited for Jesse Minter to do the same thing on offense. He's a first-time head coach. He's never done this before. He's calling plays on defense. Go give your offensive side of the football to somebody who's done it before. And if that guy's not out there that you love right now, which there are reports that that guy is out there and Lamar Jackson loves him and Cliff Kingsbury, then go with somebody who's been coaching for longer than since 2023. Like, I'm 25 years old, 25, a little bit more, and I'd already graduated college. And that is when Davis Webb just got his first job in the NFL, the year I graduated college. Like, look, he's not ready, in my opinion. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Again, reminder, we will be back in studio later this afternoon. We'll go live a little bit earlier today, so that way we can beat the traffic getting home. Probably 3:30 is when we will be going live, 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. Make sure to join us. Make sure to tune in. Cannot wait to see each and every single one of you guys. Make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications. Also, reminder, chatsports.com/Minter. You can check out our Minter is Coming t-shirts and hoodies. Great prices. They're flying off the shelves. That link's in the comments and description of today's video. All right, we're going to get out of here. See y'all later.